Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Dr. Jasmine, a scholar in English and American literature and a University of Cologne alumna. Whether you are here for the first time or following along, I'm glad you are joining us. So far, we have explored critical movements like moral criticism and pragmatic criticism, each bringing a unique perspective to literature. Today, we'll focus on new criticism, a major 20th century American literary critical movement that reshaped how literature is analyzed by emphasizing the text itself over external context. First, move on to foundations of new criticism. New criticism emerged in the early 20th century as a reaction against approaches that focused on the author's biography or moralizing judgments. Instead, it treated the literary work as an autonomous entity. The key ideas include close reading, which means detailed examination of the text's formal features, such as imagery, irony, paradox, rhyme, and meter. We have also textual autonomy emphasized. The meaning resides within the text, independent of authorial intent or historical context. New humanism also believes in the intentional fallacy, the idea that the author's intention does not determine meaning. This term was coined by W.K. Wemsett and Monroe Beardsley. It also believes in the affective fallacy, which is the error of basing literary value on the reader's emotional reaction. It means that for new humanism, it is a fallacy, it is a mistake to base literary value on the reader's reaction. This is the same as the word fallacy they use for intentional fallacy. It means it is a mistake to base your judgment on the intention of the author. Let's go to the historical context and rise of the movement between the years 1930s and the 1960s. New criticism became the dominant American critical method in mid-20th century academia, emphasizing rigorous formal analysis. The key figures and works include John Crowe Ransom, who was a poet and critic that helped establish new criticism's principles. The next figure is Cleanth Brooks, whose book The Well-Wrought Urn in 1947 analyzes poetry through concepts like irony and paradox, demonstrating how these shape meaning. The next person of great influence in this movement is T.S. Eliot, whose essays, which were very various in the early 20th century, and focus on tradition and impersonality, influenced new criticism's formalist approach. The last figure is Robert Penn Warren, whose co-edited anthology textbook, Understanding Poetry in 1938, introduced students to close reading and poetic form. Let's move on to core principles, the core principles and techniques. Close reading is what matters to new criticism a lot. New critics performed meticulous textual analysis, focusing on how literary devices create meaning. For example, Brooks' readings of John Donne's poems reveal complex paradoxes and tensions. The next principle is form and content. They argued that form, it means how something is said, is inseparable from content, which is what is said. They are also very concerned about organic unity, which is a literary work is an integrated whole. Its parts work together through tension and irony to create meaning. Let's talk about the applications and examples of new criticism. There are two pieces of art which could be well examined by new criticism. The first one is William Shakespeare's Sonnet 18. New critics examine this sonnet's imagery and rhyme to show how it immortalizes the beloved's beauty, transcending natural decay. The other work could be John Donne's The Flea, which is a poem, and through irony and paradox, new criticism interprets the flea as a witty and complex symbol of seduction. New criticism had also some influence and legacy. It shaped literary studies in the United States for decades, firmly establishing close reading as a foundation of literary analysis. But there are still some critics. For example, some cite that it ignores context. New criticism often neglects historical, cultural, or authorial background. The other critique would be dismissing reader response. It downplays the role of the reader's emotions and interpretations. Moreover, it has a limited focus, primarily concentrates on poetry and canonical works, sometimes overlooking diverse voices. By the late 1960s and 1970s, new criticism's dominance waned with the rise of new theories like structuralism, post-structuralism, reader response theory, and deconstruction, which questions the fixed meaning of text. So to summarize, new criticism is text-centered, which means meaning is contained within the text itself. It focuses on close reading, which is detailed line-by-line textual analysis. It is concerned about formalism with emphasis on literary devices such as irony, paradox, and imagery. It celebrates autonomy, which means the text is a self-contained whole, and it rejects authorial intent and reader emotions because they are not relevant to interpreting meaning. To conclude, new criticism transformed literary criticism by insisting that literature should be studied on its own terms, focusing on language, form, and literary techniques. Though later criticism challenged its limits, its methods remain crucial tools in literary studies. Next time you read a poem or a story, try to focus on its language and its structure, exploring how its elements work together to create meaning. If you found this lecture helpful, please like, share, and subscribe. Drop your thoughts and questions below. I would like to hear from you.